Hey, welcome to The Explainer. We're going to talk about a feeling every single one of us has had, but maybe you just don't have a name for it. It's that bittersweet little ache that can pop up even in our absolute happiest moments. To really get it, let's just start with a super simple story. Come on, picture a perfect little moment of joy with me. You've just bought your all-time favorite ice cream. That very first bite, it's just bliss. Pure, simple, uncomplicated happiness. It is exactly what you want. But then, you get to the end, and that last bite, as good as it still is, it comes with this tiny little pang of sadness, doesn't it? That little voice in your head that whispers, it's almost over. So why is that? Why does the end of any good thing, big or small, always seem to carry this little shadow of dissatisfaction? That question right there is exactly what we're going to unpack. What's so interesting is that this feeling, it's not just some random quirk of being human. It's actually a universal concept. And yeah, it has a name. And listen, it's not just about ice cream, right? It's that frustration you feel when you studied your heart out for a test and you still failed. Or that little flicker of envy when your friend shows off their brand new phone and it's just a little bit shinier than yours. It's even the simple, nagging discomfort of a headache that you just can't seem to shake. Well, in Buddhist philosophy, all of these experiences get wrapped up under one really powerful term, dukkha. Now, it's often translated as suffering, but that's a bit dramatic. It's a much bigger idea. It's this fundamental, underlying sense that things are just a little bit imperfect, a little out of joint. But hold on, because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. That word suffering, it just sounds so pessimistic, doesn't it? Like a total downer. The reality is way more nuanced and honestly, a lot more helpful. So we're not talking about the myth that life is nothing but misery. Not at all. The deeper truth is way more subtle. Life is imperfect because it's always changing. Good things end, difficult things happen. That's the real insight here. So, okay, if this imperfection is kind of like the climate of our lives, what causes it? Why does this feeling show up for absolutely everyone, everywhere? It really just boils down to a few core truths we all kind of know deep down. Of course, good things end, just like our ice cream. And yeah, difficult things are just bound to happen sometimes. We all know we can't control everything, no matter how hard we try. And maybe the biggest one of all, our minds are basically wired to always be looking for the next thing. So our satisfaction is fleeting by its very design. So the most crucial point is this. Feeling this dissatisfaction isn't a sign that you're failing at life or that there's something wrong with you. It's a totally shared, universal part of the human condition in a world that never, ever stands still. Now, I know this might all sound a little bit bleak, but here's the twist. Understanding this idea is actually the secret to becoming more resilient and, ironically, happier. This is where it gets incredibly practical. So here's the shift in perspective it gives you. First, you realize you're not alone. This is just part of the deal of being human. And that totally reduces that lonely feeling. Then you start to normalize the struggle. Life is supposed to have bumps in the road, which helps you stop blaming yourself. And that lets you do the most important thing. You can finally shift your focus from a helpless question to a really powerful one. Because when we're in pain, this is our default question, isn't it? Why me? It's a question that just makes us feel isolated and keeps us stuck in this loop of frustration and self-pity. But by just accepting that life is inherently imperfect, we can unlock a totally different and way more powerful question. Instead of why me, we can ask, okay, this is happening. This is part of the human experience. So how can I respond to it with a bit of wisdom and kindness? See how that shifts you from being a victim of your circumstances to an active participant in your own life? So you see, saying that life is fundamentally imperfect isn't some pessimistic curse you just have to suffer through. It's more like a weather forecast. It's just a realistic description of the climate you're living in. I mean, think about it. You don't wake up in the morning and get furious at the very idea of rain. You don't shake your fist at the sky and demand that it be sunny forever and ever. You know rain is a part of the weather system. So what do? You check the forecast and you learn to bring an umbrella. This isn't about giving up and resigning yourself to misery. No way. It's about preparation, not pessimism. It's about learning to take care of yourself in any kind of weather. And that brings me to the final thought I want to leave you with. If you stopped fighting the weather of your life, if you simply accepted it as the climate that you live in, what could you build with all of that energy you'd save?